All right. Welcome everybody to part 3 of becoming the CEO of your life. I've got my really good friend, Christy Campbell, with me. I was so excited, so excited she said yes to this because I knew that part 3 needed to be about health and prioritization. We've talked so much in the last couple of webinars about how to build courage and how to build confidence and taking care of yourself with that self-care. And then part 2 was all about schedule and how to prioritize, and that balance is bullshit. And so it was a perfect segue into this subject of health, and not just physical health, right? But mental health and how to prioritize yourself amidst all these things that we do in life. So a little bit about Christy. She is a NCI Certified Nutrition Coach. She's a CrossFit Level 2 trainer, an ISSA Certified Personal Trainer, and she is also a USAW Advanced Sports Performance Coach. So she has no lack of acronyms on her resume, that's for sure. She's a Navy veteran. She's a Navy spouse. She has 3 absolutely gorgeous children and I think a couple of dogs. I think
three kids.
Yep.
Yes.
So a couple of dogs. Yes, Rachael Anderson, and an absolute certified badass. I have been in Christy's life for several years. Our kids, we met, I think, when our kids were doing jiu-jitsu, or they are still doing jiu-jitsu together at Electric North in Lake Stevens. And she and I, we kind of started doing jiu-jitsu at the same time. I committed to 6 whole months. I filled out those 6 whole months and then decided it's not for me.
That's a wrap.
Christy has continued that journey of jiu-jitsu, and I believe she got promoted to blue belt within the last year, which is absolutely incredible. So not only does she have a stacked resume, not only has she gone through personal transformations, which she'll share about, but she also consistently lives everything that she's about to preach, which is pretty incredible. Christy truly sets a huge and incredible example for women with her lifestyle, with her organization, with her inspiration, and super real, raw posts. Like the stuff that you share is genuinely so authentic and so real. It resonates with so many people. So, you know, when we were talking about doing this webinar, we said, like, this isn't like a 21-day fix. we have nothing to sell you. This is not about, you know, how do I quick 1, 2, 3 steps to lose 10 pounds in this. Like we are going a little bit deeper. We're going a little bit more tactical. And I'm really excited for her to share a bunch of her nuggets. So Christy, please tell us your story first, and we will kind of start there because you've got so much to share. So start with who you are, where you came from, how you came up into this.
Well, thank you for having me. This is fun. I mean, you and I've talked for years, I feel like, and this is our first collaboration, but it's been a long time coming. So I guess a little bit about me. That was a really generous and kind intro. But I mean, I found coaching. So I've been coaching for 8 years now, but I found coaching through needing a coach. And maybe that's what a lot of people find these kind of opportunities to help others ultimately comes because somebody helped you. So I grew up as an 80s kid. So I'm like an 83 baby. I don't know how old everybody is, but I grew up eating lots of processed food. So my mom was a single mom for most of my growing up. She worked her booty off, but we weren't like the family that had like home cooked meals particularly. I mean, I grew up eating, 3 Otis Spunkmeyer cookies and a bag of popcorn for lunch. That was my lunch.
With anybody like mac and cheese, PBJs, SpaghettiOs. Yeah.
I mean, Gushers, endless cereal, you name it. The processed food was just what I grew up on. I didn't really eat vegetables. If I eat vegetables, they came out of can and I thought they were disgusting. And I thought that healthy food or diet food was like Weight Watchers food or spray butter or Diet Coke or those kind of things. So that was just kind of the frame about food that I grew up with. Now, I also grew up as a pretty active kid. So a lot of my identity was around being an athlete. And I played a lot of sports. And that's probably why my weight stayed reasonable growing up, to be honest, is I don't remember struggling with my weight. Mm-hmm. However, when I got into the Navy, I had a series of knee surgeries. So the Navy, in my first year in the Navy, let me fix my camera. Sometimes it goes out. in my first year in the Navy, I had an ACL reconstruction, which is a pretty big knee surgery. But the Navy, I won't say they botched it, but they must have botched it. And it led to a series of 9 more knee surgeries. And so if you fast forward a couple of years, I was getting out of the Navy. I was married. I had my first 2 kids, and I found myself 50 pounds overweight, 10 knee surgeries deep, no longer able to be the athletic girl that I had been growing up. I felt like I had lost that piece of myself. I didn't know how to eat. So each time that I gained the weight with pregnancy, I lost it doing diets. Like, so I had joined Weight Watchers a whole bunch of times. Well, this second pregnancy and gained 50 pounds, but then it didn't come off. And I found myself in this place, you know, in my late 20s where I was like, I had lost that piece of me that felt like me. I was like, well, I guess this is what mom life must be. You no longer feel happy. You don't feel confident in your skin. You wear clothes that look nice, but not necessarily like sexy or cool or confident. And it was like I had almost accepted it, that this was going to be the rest of my life.
Let me stop you there for a second, because quite honestly, I think that resonates with me. I was there after my first pregnancy. And I think that resonates with a lot of people, even who may not have kids, where they get to a certain point and they don't know necessarily what to do next. And they accept themselves at this weight or this uncomfortable place where they're not happy with their body, but they just kind of accept it because they think that's what's going to happen. Does that resonate with anybody? Because for sure, I had felt those exact emotions before. Yes, like honestly, it like you kind of get to this point where like, okay, well, I'm so busy, I can't do anything else about it. This is where I'm at now.
And again, like you said, it might be something that you accept because of your age or because of your tempo with work, or you're like, well, this is just what it's going to be because, you know, this is what life is at a certain point. But I wasn't happy. And so I was reaching for things that I had been exposed to as solutions. So I, you know, joined the shake challenges, right? Or I remember buying Brazilian butt lift off of an infomercial with all of the supplements so that I could take the supplements. I remember buying We Fit and like standing there and like letting it like scan my body, you know?
Yep.
And
all the quick fixes.
Yeah. And I put an elliptical machine in my room because I was like, well, this is going to be, you know, what I do. And I remember buying Slim Fast and drinking Slim Fast. And if you ever drink Slim Fast, there's like a very distinct taste in these cans. Like it's not
chemical. Yeah.
I would lose and gain the same 5 pounds over and over again. And it was just a really frustrating season because I didn't see a way out. And I also would look at other people, other women in my life, and just think like, why don't I have that discipline? Or why are my genetics sucky? Like, why can't I be fit and healthy? Like, why am I the, you know, the fat girl in the picture, you know, or like, why am I the one that can't wear that? And so I couldn't figure it out. And I remember when my husband, so I was out of the Navy at this point, but my husband was leaving on deployment and my boys were little. They were not quite 2 and not quite 4. And I moved into my house that I grew up in. So I moved into my old like my bedroom from high school with these 2 babies. And at that point I had 2 dogs. And it was not an ideal time, right? Like of all the circumstances, my husband being gone for a year on deployment, kids being little, chaos, like it's not easy to move into your house, like get rid of all your stuff and move into your mom's house, you know. But I was still in my mind thinking, well, I've got to lose weight. I've got to do something. And I decided to join a gym. And I'll be 100% honest, there was nothing different in my mind about joining the gym as any of the other like quick fixes that I was trying.
Yeah.
Because as I walked in the door, I remember thinking to myself, well, they better have classes that fit my schedule, or they better have childcare, or it better not be this way because that won't work. And it better not be that way because that won't work. And I wanted to like scream at the top of my lungs to the guy who was signing me up, like, don't worry, this isn't actually me. Like I'm an athlete, you know, it's not my fault. Like I've had all these surgeries, or I'm not always like this. Like I kind of wanted to be
Make an excuse.
making excuses.
Yeah.
I was certainly making excuses in my mind, and I was waiting for the right thing, because
Yeah.
all those other things, I was like, those weren't the right things. They didn't work for me. And I was like, well, maybe this gym will work for me. And I went to a couple classes, and I was doing like step aerobics class, which I'm a good athlete, but I'm not coordinated in like the dance category. And I didn't like it. And I was like, well, I'm just going to force myself to go. And I would get out of the class and walk right to the scale and get on the scale so I could punish myself with like, how much did I lose or gain? You know, it was very transactional. Like, oh, I did a class. Like, where's my,
Where's my payoff? Yeah. Like, where's my immediate results? Yeah.
Yes. Where's my reward and where's my immediate results? And if I don't get those results, well, then clearly this isn't working for me, you know? And that was my headspace around it. And I don't know that there was anything, I don't think I knew that wasn't the right headspace.
Right.
I think I truly was invested in trying to change, but I was thinking that, you know, as the special snowflake, that I needed the stars to align for me to be able to do this thing.
Right. Well, it's almost like you were walking into it and almost giving yourself a reason or providing a pre-planned excuse as to why this may not work. And you almost had it ready for yourself mentally and emotionally to say, well, if I'm not seeing results in X time, then it's not working. And if this isn't the perfect plan that I have been looking for, that's going to work for me to get down to where I want to be. When in reality,
there were a lot of things that had led me to that place.
Yeah.
One, my eating habits were really poor. I had not prioritized myself in years. I also had let go of movement and exercise because my knee had made me feel like, well, I can't do it.
Right.
And so I had just given up on those things. And then I had also done, and again, not attaching guilt to it, but ultimately that is the path that led me to that moment is, you know, I had tried all of these different things that had impacted my body. So, you know, what we do ultimately impacts us. And so there was context that led me to that place where I was not feeling happy in my skin. And I also wasn't feeling confident that I was going to be able to do anything about it. So just like you said, I was just looking for a reason that, I tweaked my toe. Can't go anymore. Like,
can't go to the gym for a while. Yep.
Right. So funny enough is I actually met a personal trainer there, and I just ran into him at the gym because honestly, the gym was kind of a scary place for me at that time. Everybody's got their headphones on and just doing their thing, and you don't know how to use the equipment. And
sorry to interrupt, but is anybody else intimidated by the gym? Because I remember in 2009 when I was at a place as well, like 35 pounds overweight, and I had a little tiny baby, and my husband suggested I go to the gym, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I am scared AF to go to the gym. I don't even know what to do. I don't know how to do. I don't know. I don't want anybody to see me. Like you said, I don't want to walk in. I felt like I'm an imposter in my own skin. Like, I don't want to walk in and people be like, whoa, like she's gotten big. She's let herself go. And so there was a guilt surrounding going into the gym because what I had let myself go or let myself become.
Or like, why does she think that why does she think she should be doing that machine?
Yes, that's what I felt like other people were going to say, right? Yes. So there was a fear wrapped around this guilt, wrapped around the shame that I was experiencing. It sounds like kind of same, right? Where you're like, this isn't me. I promise, you know, I swear, like I'm an athlete and you know, yeah.
Exactly. It was like I was disassociated from reality, but it was lonely in there, you know? And I remember this coach, he came up to me and I don't know why he started talking to me, but he essentially was like, you should come to my class. And he actually held a class that wasn't at the gym. It was in the park. And he invited me to come to his boot camp class. And I was like, what's the name of the class? Or maybe he even just told me, he's like, it's called Pain in the Park. And I'm like, that is the worst name ever.
Terrifying.
And I thought of a million reasons why I shouldn't go, to be honest. Like, there was no childcare in the park. This was in January. Also, it was like crap weather. And I was like, there is a ton of reasons. And who is this dude like invited me to this random park workout? I have, heat and cleanness in here in the gym. Like but for some reason I decided to say yes. And I remember when I went to that class, everything about it felt hard. I wore all black to cover up my body because I didn't want anybody to see me. I had my knee brace on because I was scared, but I also wanted everybody to know that like my knee was messed up.
Yep.
And everything about that first class was the like worst nightmare for your like first day at class, right? So we were doing bear crawls where people's face are like literally in your butt. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody's behind you and you're bear crawling. Bear crawls are really hard.
Yes.
We were doing burpees, we were doing all of this stuff. And I couldn't do hardly any of it. But in the course of doing it, this coach came over and he said something to me and he goes, I see an athlete in there. And it was like, he saw me, he saw the potential. He saw like who I was in there. And because he saw me and because I don't know, I just kept coming back. And it was like the people who were a part of that space, who were sweating, doing it with me. I'm still friends with some of them. Here we are like 9 years later.
Awesome.
But throughout that year, I just kept showing up and I started taking ownership over where I was and started accepting, okay, well, this is my need. Like, this is what I've got. And like, this is my body and this is where I'm at. And it just started to change like one little piece at a time. And over the course of that year, yes, did I lose 40 pounds? 100%. Yes, I did. And most people want to talk about that being the transformation.
Right.
But what really transformed was I found me again. And I got that piece of me back. And I took ownership over me and my body and my circumstances. And instead of looking for a quick fix, I changed my mindset to this being taking care of my body and this being my journey and making it work no matter what, rain or shine. Like I would figure it out how to get there. And he taught me basics about food. It wasn't like some crazy gimmick, right? He's not like some Instagram influencer star. He was just like, hey, you probably shouldn't eat out so much. And like, how about some more protein? And we got to drink water and eat enough food. And like, maybe like, let's swap out that processed junk for something more real. It was basics. But he changed my life. And at the end of that year, not only did I decide to become a coach, but that was going to be my like life mission, to pay it forward and to give that back to people. And
that's so amazing. That's so amazing. And so a couple of things that I heard, because really what this is about, Christy, and what you displayed in that year, that first year, 9 years ago that you were in this, was that you took ownership over where you were, you found accountability, and you took action. And the key to it is you cannot take ownership if there is guilt involved. You have to lose the fact that you're guilty about where you are and simply accept where you are. So there's 3 things that I think like the big takeaways from this, guys, in regards to owning where you are without the guilt. And number 1 is simply to do a self-assessment. Like, where am I at? How do I feel? Right? How do I feel in my clothes? Do I have, inconsistencies with where I want to be and with what I'm doing, the actions I'm taking? Number 2 would for sure be accountability, right? You had the coach, you had the people in the class that you became friends with, and you probably, a lot of what kept you showing up was support and hope from those people. So finding those people created a level of accountability that wanted you to, it kept you wanting to keep going. And then number 3 was action, actually showing up. As shitty as it was, and as shitty as you probably were, and how awful those bear crawls were, just going and doing what you could do and not feeling guilty that you couldn't do it the best or better or as good as other people around you. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think nothing about it was the perfect time. There really wasn't. A better time would have been wait till my knee's stronger. Wait till Josh is home from deployment. Wait till the boys are older. Wait till you're in a little bit better shape and then start. There was so many reasons to not do those things. But I think that when we are honest with ourselves and then we remove the guilt, because again, the narrative in the fitness space and in the nutrition space too, and like in the diet space for sure, is that the before version of us is really shitty. And
Mhm.
so, and you know, you are ugly, you're fat, you're not worthy, you are all those things. And that is a not great place to start.
Totally.
And
Totally.
I try to talk about it a lot, but your day one, like my day one, I look back on that now and I don't look at how fat I was or out of shape or weak. I look at how brave I was, how willing I was to try, how bold I was to go and like meet new people. And I don't even think I knew it then. So like you have to treat yourself even from day one differently if you're going to start acting differently.
So
And yeah,
this is so important, Christy. Thank you for bringing that up, because your day one, your before photo is the person who is building courage and confidence into her life, right? You said something to me the other day that I think that everybody here should write down, okay? And that is, if you do not take ownership, you are not empowered to make decisions.
yes.
Okay, like you, to be empowered to make the decisions to improve yourself, prioritize yourself, you have to take ownership. So the before does not equal sloppy and fat and weak and pathetic. Before is the brave, it is courageous, it is in the midst of building the confidence to get to where you want to be. I think that in and of itself, that reframing of your mentality in regards to who am I on day one, who am I right now, and where do I want to be a year from now, is the opposite of what the fitness and diet industry has taught us to believe.
And then also it becomes easier to take action because then it's about you. It's not about someone else making it perfect for you. You're like, I'm going to find a way to do this no matter what. And I think I've seen that over the course of like the past 8 years, because from that moment of deciding to coach, I spent time coaching boot camp in the park, just like his
In
class.
the park.
Exactly. I had my pain in the park, and I coached CrossFit and I coached weightlifting. And then I even coached nutrition sort of at a level that was more in line with like fitness, right? Like helping people perform better and like weightlifters doing all of that stuff. But there was this like reoccurring underlying theme of this feeling that I wanted to help people who were in that place like I was. And I wanted to do it in a way that, again, made it doable, because sometimes it feels so impossible. There's so many reasons you could put it off. And so, you know, now my FitMe is the name of the company that I founded, but ultimately we provide, like, we want to empower women with coaching and community and belonging. So we want people to know that you can do this like one doable step at a time. And ultimately there are strategies, and hopefully, you know, even today we're going to be talking about some of those that you can do right now.
Yeah.
But
let's kind of dive into some of that, because
we couldn't skip the ownership part, you know, like that part. If we skipped it and just went to strategies, it wouldn't be doing you guys who are here any justice, because you have to know, like, this is your journey, your steps forward.
Yep. Well, I think as anybody who's seen, you know, me speak or knows me or has been on a webinar of mine before, they know that I don't frame things like the normal culture typically does, right? Like creating a perfect daily schedule has nothing to do with the color coordination on your Google Calendar, but it has a shit ton to do with prioritizing in the season that you're in. So no difference here when it comes to your mental, emotional, physical health. You have to take ownership over, number one, where you are. So the big three things that about that, again, ownership without guilt involves assessment. So assessing where you are right now, accountability, finding a coach, finding a comrade, finding somebody that you can be held accountable to, or that you enjoy, you know, being accountability buddies, as I call them. And number three, taking that consistent action. And this doesn't mean that you're committing to 5 days a week, going to the gym for 90 minutes at a time. This is simply making the decision and taking a baby step forward, and then reframing who your before person is, right? I think one of the biggest struggles that us as women and a lot of men have is that they are always looking for that perfect program or, keto or paleo or this and that and this and that. And one of these is going to work perfectly for me. That's going to be my one. And so solving the puzzle of what to do for you and what works for you is really the biggest obstacle that I think we face when it comes to that. You're right, Christy. Like there's so many opinions and we get lost. Like, okay, you can lose yourself in finding out the best way to do something, or you can just take consistent action towards some things. So Christy has some fantastic strategies for us as ladies and as CEOs and women in our lives to be able to really consistently fit in these things. So let's kind of dive into that, because some of the strategies that you've told me in regards to workouts, in regards to meal prep, in regards to looking at yourself in the mirror and speaking to yourself and body image, right? This comes down to how you treat yourself and how you prioritize yourself in your day. So talk to us a little bit about some of these strategies that work, Christy.
We'll get real practical here. I guarantee that most of you have places in your life that you feel successful. For some people, that's in their work environment. They feel like they are moving forward, they're progressing, they're finding success. For other people, they can think of maybe like an education season where they were like achieving credentials, or you were perhaps, you have a degree in something, or you have moved through professional education, or perhaps it's your family and you throw yourself into your kids and your spouse or your support system, and you are finding that you feel successful in those places. Mm-hmm. But maybe in this one category, like the body, and exercise and eating well and taking care of yourself, you don't feel very successful.
Anybody out there? Anybody feel like that? We have all had those seasons, for real. Yep. Okay.
So one of the first things that I like to encourage people is to not label yourself as undisciplined or unmotivated or inconsistent or any of those things regarding this body stuff, but instead look at places in your life where you have been successful and think about the strategies or the skill sets that you developed to be successful in those categories. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just pull some of those and we're going to apply them to this. And so workouts is a simple one, but I love this because oftentimes we're so busy, and many of you are probably givers, helpers. You are always willing to take on the extra thing, to help out late at work, to get the project done, at the last minute, even though you weren't planning on it and somebody asks a favor, or maybe your kids need something. And so you're totally willing to like set yourself aside and do it. So you have this fill up all of your time kind of life. And then you think to yourself, well, I'm going to try to squeeze some workouts in this week.
Ooh, anybody?
I'd love to squeeze in some workouts this week. And you think about it because you're like, I don't feel good in my body. I know I need to work out more. So let me try to squeeze them in. But what's missing there is you're not squeezing in your kid's pediatrician appointment. You're not squeezing in the meeting with your boss. You're not squeezing in any of those other things that are priorities. They are on your calendar. And so one of the very first things I teach people is let's set aside time in your calendar designated for movement. And I say movement because it doesn't have to be some exercise program. It could be a walk. It could be something that you enjoy, like dancing. It could be anything, but movement is how we take care of our bodies. So if you want to play the game of like, let me hope I get it in, you probably won't. Mm-hmm. And at best, you might do it sporadically. And so the very first thing we need to do is schedule it, just like you do the other priorities. And what should happen, and here's the magic sweet spot, right? People are like, yes, I'll do that. I'll schedule it. But the magic happens when you find the conflict, because you're actually already using that time somewhere else. Right. The real magic happens when you schedule your workouts and then someone says, wait, can you stay late today? We could wrap up the blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh man, but I'm supposed to be at the 6 o'clock class. And you think to yourself, well, it's fine. I'll just go to the one tomorrow. Right. The magic happens when you're like, I can't, I am not available then. How about this other time? And you protect it, and then you actually follow through. That's where the magic happens, is that sort of like protecting of that schedule and deconflicting, just like you would anything else that's a priority. If somebody's like, you got to take your dog to the vet, and they're like, hey, can you do the whatever? You're like, no, I can't. I got to take the dog to the vet.
100%. And we talked about that exact thing on the last CEO webinar was, when it comes to your schedule, if I have an appointment with my kids in the evening, right? If it's my night with my kids and I've got somebody who wants to meet, 9 times out of 10, I will say, I'm sorry, I'm already booked this evening. I already have an appointment, because an appointment with my kids right now in this season of my life when they are young is just as important as an appointment with a client who I don't even know yet. Right? Yes, Rachel, the power of no. That's exactly right. So being able to say no to something that is not prioritizing yourself where it should be. Like if you are working on prioritizing yourself more, you have to honor that as if it's an appointment. So love that, Christy. It's absolutely accurate.
And for people who struggle as people pleasers, saying no is hard. And probably a lot of people feel like they're people pleasers. So the solution isn't to be somebody you're not, right? Hell to the no, I'm not doing it. You're not going to do that. So instead, you have to practice language that fits you. And I really mean practice it. So for example, like what you said, it just rolls off your tongue because you practice saying that.
Yes.
So if somebody wants you to do something and you're not available because maybe you've designated that time for movement or your family or sleep or whatever, and you just have to practice saying, I would love to help with that, but I'm unavailable at that time. How about this?
Yeah.
Because maybe then you can say, yep, I can do that. I just can't do it then. So here's some options. Or
yes.
Yeah. Or thank
I was
you so much for inviting me,
Yes. Yep. Love that. I was just going to say, like, when I think immediately, and we're all conditioned to do this, immediately when I hear that, it's like all of us people pleasers, because I'm a huge people pleaser. Like I'm a high I personality, high D personality. So it's a very interesting mix. I want to please people. I want people to like me. I want people to be, around me and want to be with me. That's just my nature. And so to practice saying no, because I'm prioritizing me, immediately brings on a feeling of guilt, right?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we're talking about. But if I know that I'm taking ownership over something that's important in this season, which would be my health, which would be an hour of movement, which would be time with my kids, if I'm taking ownership over that, then I have to be totally okay in my conscience to not let that guilt seep into where I am. It can come at me, and then I have to dispel it and remind myself that that's not in my priority schedule.
At the end of the day, no one's going to do it for you. And we're circling back to this ownership thing. If you want the world to align to finally give you time to take care of yourself, it's not ever going to happen. And so once you accept that, you realize that there's no other alternative other than to create the space that you need. And I think oftentimes when we're like, oh, workouts, like Christy's going to tell me the workouts that I need to do. What are like the butt lifts I need to do? What are the like arm circles that are, curls? How do I tone my legs and, get the fat off my arms? Like that's the solutions everybody wants. And what I'm telling you is you need to find an activity that you like, that you're willing to do consistently, and that you need to carve it out in your calendar by doing what we're talking about. Though that will get you most of the way there. And beyond that, yes, like find the flavor of workout that's great for you. And when you're not working out, you're just moving. So I think, in terms of like a practical strategy, scheduling yourself, your workout time, and your meal prep time is how it works. So here's another example that I think will translate is if you are new to something. So if you are a teacher and you are just starting out, or if you are anything, real estate, if you are whatever, when you very first start, you probably need to spend some time planning out what's going to happen. So I'm not in real estate, but I imagine that when you're doing real estate deals, there's probably a sequence of papers that have to be signed. There's probably things that need to happen to make sure you're like within the law, that you're like serving the client correctly, that you're doing everything. And when you're very first starting, you probably need reminders, or you need, some sort of organization strategy to help you make sure that you're doing it. And same thing with teaching. You probably needed to do lesson plans. You probably needed to do these things in order to be successful. If you have been neglecting your healthy eating habits for years, or you never had any, like me, I didn't have them, you can't just hope that you're going to be able to wing it on a busy Tuesday night. You're not. And again, this is where we start to beat ourselves up because we're mad at ourselves that we didn't prepare some healthy dinner. Instead, we grabbed fast food. But really all that the solution is to, again, apply that same strategy that allows you to be successful somewhere else and say, on Sundays, I'm going to have to spend 30 minutes and do some meal planning. I'm going to just need to make sure that I've got the stuff in my house, that things are thawed, that I've thought about it, that I've packed some snacks for work, that I've like thought about what I can do. And it doesn't take long.
Right.
And it takes less and less time as you get good at it. But in the beginning, you can't skip it.
Powerful, Christy. So, I mean, I know for a fact that when I have like a big meeting with a client, or if I'm, doing a team meeting, or yesterday I did what we call a pattern interrupt for my team. So I planned out 4 full hours of interaction and questions and thought-provoking conversation starters and all these things. And I'm sure everybody watching this has something in their life that they have to plan for, whether you're throwing a PTA meeting or whether you're meeting with the boss or creating a new process for efficiency for your team at work. It takes prior planning to get everything in order and organized to be able to present to these other people. And that eyes are on you, right? When you're prepping for these things. So you do it for other people 100%. So like you're saying, you already have the skills to be able to carve out the time to have some organization, to make a plan. You just have to choose that you're prioritizing yourself, because yourself matters just as much as coworkers or other parents or your kids or your spouse. It's literally about, I have to prioritize me and then take that time to plan and prep for my meals this week.
And yeah. And if you look at, okay, my body doesn't feel good. If you think to yourself, I'm not eating very well and it's not working for me, like, it's okay to say, like, maybe if we can just, I'm not all about like all food is good food. I don't necessarily think that that's the correct language, but I think it's okay to ask yourself, like, how is this serving me? Like, is eating fast food 4 nights a week, is that really creating my body the way I want to feel? And if the answer is no, then it's not working for you. And once we decide that, we can start to create boundaries. And instead of it being about restrictions and things that someone else has put on you, like, here's your meal plan list, like, don't eat anything else that's not on it. Instead, you can feel empowered when you're like, you know what? I'm going to start to create some boundaries around this, around what works for me and around things that are serving me well. So again, here's another example. Like, maybe you love tortilla chips. Me, I love tortilla chips. Okay. Now, would eating tortilla chips every day, all afternoon, serve my body very well? The answer is no. So why would I put them in my house? I mean, I work from home. Why would I put them in my house if every single day I would have to walk by them and negotiate with myself whether or not I wanted to have tortilla chips? Instead, I should just leave them out of my house. It's a boundary, it's not a restriction. And say, you know what, when I go out with my girls to, go eat Mexican food, I'm going to have some tortilla chips, but I'm just not going to have them in my house. And we can start to, and this is where I think, like, body image, I take a little bit of different approach than most people, because oftentimes it's too much of a leap to say, like, I love me for me right now. When you don't feel it, it doesn't feel authentic. And I'm not saying that we can't say it enough that we start to believe it. Perhaps you can, but I actually think if we can get ourselves more towards taking actions that feel good, we start to take intentional actions, like creating boundaries in line with like what serves us, we can start to change that body image automatically. And sometimes we don't have to go all the way from negative to positive. We can just go to neutral. And I think that happens when we start to deliberately do things that take care of us. You're building a relationship. So when we're talking about, oh, I don't have a healthy relationship with food, or I don't have a healthy, bad body image, what we're saying is we've either neglected the relationship with ourselves or we've mistreated ourselves. And so the solution, just like if you had a bad relationship with a friend, and again, this is why I love this, because this translates, I know it does in other parts of your life. If you have neglected a friend and you've been crappy to them and you've criticized them for a really long time, just because you look at them one day and say, I love you, they're not believing you.
Yeah.
You have to back that up with changing how you act in order to change that relationship. And it's exactly the same way with our relationship with ourselves. So for example, I encourage people to wear happy clothes, which means like get rid of all the crap in your closet that makes you feel sad when you put it on your body. And instead, in your body that you're in right now, not future body when you finally like earned the good clothes, but right now, put on clothes that you feel happy in. Why? Because it changes the relationship with yourself. You're starting to take care of yourself in a different way. And it makes the boundaries, it makes the planning, it makes the follow through more doable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I adopted that. I think I did a fun like 7-day challenge with you a year or two ago. And that was a huge part of it because I was in a space where had been so busy and COVID. And I think I gained like the COVID 10, and I was just feeling yucky. And I would try to put on even like sweatpants that I normally would. And I've got this like muffin top hanging on these sweatpants and I feel gross in them. And so when I saw that, you're like, why do you keep putting sad clothes on? Like, why do you keep putting clothes on yourself that you feel sad in, or it makes you feel bad about your body? And so I went and literally found some like comfier pants that had a better waistband or hit me better or whatever. And when I put them on, even though I'm not completely happy with my body, or I wasn't at that moment, I felt happier in those pants. And like you said, the building that relationship with yourself, building the bridge is part of building the confidence that you need to really take that action. So I love that. So in regards to, solving this puzzle, right? So we're figuring out all these pieces. We're understanding that we have the organizational skills to take the time that we need to plan a couple meals. We understand we have the prioritization and schedule building skills to be able to prioritize ourselves and put in our calendar movement time. Yes, Natasha, great point. Sad clothes do encourage shame. Exactly. And then of course, the last part of that, the body image, it's the relationship with yourself. It's not looking at yourself and saying, oh, I wish my tummy was this, and I wish my arms were leaner, and I wish my boobs were bigger, and I wish my thighs weren't cottage cheesy. Like, well, guess what? All of us have those things, first of all. And second of all, there's always going to be somebody with a body part that you can look up to, but you are you. So building that relationship with yourself, encouraging different parts of you to feel happy, not sad, is such a key strategy. And I absolutely love that. So when it comes to like the different things that you can really just like simplify, right? Because let's be honest, we're all, like you said, we're all busy. Like not everybody could even make this webinar time because things come up in life and things happen and we have to pivot, we have to move, we have to continue to keep prioritizing. But the simpler that we can make these little action steps and these little changes, the more that we're going to be able to apply, right? So let's talk a little bit about like from a food perspective, from a movement perspective, from a health perspective, how can we simplify some of these things and take away some tactical advice as to what we can implement today?
So in FitMe, we teach people what we call like our basics or our default dailies. And these are very practical and simple. And so the very first one is that we don't drink our calories and instead we drink water. So this is a really simple one, but oftentimes, again, it's what we do every day that ultimately adds up to our bodies changing one way or the other. If you used to be on your feet all the time and then now you sit behind the desk because maybe you used to work on your, out and about. And then with COVID, you started working at home behind your desk. And all of a sudden you're like, how did I gain 5 to 10 pounds? Well, that's how you changed what you did every day. So these basics are about that. So we don't drink our calories. Instead, we drink water. What this also does is it removes confusion. You're not like standing at the grocery store looking at all of the different Jamba juices, thinking which one is the healthy one, the healthy juice for you. Instead, we're saying like, we're not drinking calories unless it's a treat. And instead we drink water. The second one is that we move every day. 30 minutes of intentional movement every single day.
And explain movement. Like, again, let's talk about what movement, because
I think that movement could be anything from workout. So a CrossFit, a weightlifting class, a Zumba class, a yoga class, a whatever. It could be anything in that category. It can be Peloton. It can be anything, or it could be walking. Mm-hmm. And so if you can just think of that, did I move today? And if the answer is no, then go do it. That's going to start moving you in the right direction. Walking is perhaps the most overlooked piece of if you're trying to have weight loss, if you're trying to change your body composition, walking is the number one thing I would encourage people to do, and start with 30 minutes. And then if that's easy, do more. And it doesn't have to be 30 minutes at one time. You could break it up. You could say, I'm going to walk 5 minutes on the top of every hour, in my day. I'm going to take lunch break on my feet, and I'm going to go or I'm going to take these meetings on, walking. It doesn't have to be this like big deal, but walking is huge for weight loss and a little bit of strength training. And your body is a weight. And so it doesn't have to be something complicated and some fancy gym. You can start with body weight strength, but walking and some version of strength training would be like my suggestion. The next thing that we encourage people to do is and I talked to about this before, but this is one of the original boundaries that I think help people. If you wouldn't want it in your house on your worst day, don't buy it. If you know that it's one of those foods that you just can't say no to when you're feeling tired, stressed, anxious, whatever, don't buy it. Just leave it out of the house. And that's going to start to create space for healthier choices.
I talked about this exact thing on the part 1, because part of building confidence, right, and creating a good relationship with your body and a healthy relationship with yourself is trusting yourself. And if you're setting yourself up, like you said it just a bit ago, if you're setting yourself up to have to negotiate constantly with the things that are in your house, then you're literally setting yourself up for potential failure. So my example was Oreos, because I will eat a sleeve of Oreos in a sitting if it's in front of me. Like, I freaking love them. Don't love what they do to my teeth afterward, but love Oreos in general. And so I don't buy them. And so if they're not in my house, I have nothing to negotiate with. And therefore, I will continue to build the trust with myself, continue to improve my own body image and my own confidence. So yes.
And gurus out there might tell you, oh, well, you should be able to have everything in moderation. Well, here's where I'm going to tell you something different. You get to make the choices that work best for you. And does it work better for you to just not have it in your house? If the answer is yes, then screw that. Like, you don't have to think like there's something wrong with you because you can't count out 2 Oreos.
Yes.
That food was literally designed to make it impossible for you to count out 2 Oreos. The food industry has spent billions of dollars to create food that is so delicious that our brains cannot make the right choice.
Yes.
And it's okay to say, like, I'm not going to surround myself with that. But at the same time, I bet, Rachel, if you were like going to have an Oreo blizzard, you'd be super pumped. You would love it as a treat.
Extra Oreos, obviously.
extra Oreos. And so instead, again, really simplifying, if we're not going to have that stuff in our house and we're going to try to avoid processed junk food, instead, what we want to do is eat really basic, healthy plates, and we call them FitMe plates. And here's how you build it. You can do this on vacation. You can do this on travel. You can do this out to a restaurant. You can do this at home.
You guys, get your notebook out, write this down, because this is so key. FitMe plates.
You're going to start with protein. Protein is the star of the plate. It should be approximately the size of your palm. That's just approximately. You're going to start with that. Then you're going to fill up half of your plate with vegetables. It could be salad, it could be asparagus, it could be whatever you want. Broccoli, it could be a combo. You're going to go halvesies with veggies. Next, you're going to pick a quality carb, ideally from the ground, right? About the size of a tennis ball. So if we're talking about a rice or potatoes or something like that, about the size of a tennis ball is approximately a serving. And then we're going to add some kind of healthy fat. So that could be dressing on your salad. It could be butter on your broccoli. It could be, it could be something that's already, like, maybe you added it olive oil or something while you were cooking. It could be anything. It could be a side of avocado. It could be whatever. You're adding the healthy fat. This is the basic FitMe plate. And if you could eat 2 meals a day that look like that, you will see changes in your body. You will feel better. You'll have more energy. If you have extra weight on your body, it will start to come off. You're going to feel better. And again, is that like exactly perfect? It doesn't have to be.
Right.
It doesn't matter. If you are eating out most of the time and you're kind of doing whatever, and you start to eat like this, you're going to feel better.
Exactly.
Where our head goes is, well, like, how much exactly? Like, start with this and see how it goes. And if you're like, well, I don't know how to cook fish, perfect. That's what you got to learn. Let's learn how to cook fish so it tastes good. Or like, I don't like vegetables. Awesome. Let's start to find some vegetables that you like. Like, which one do you hate the least? Like, let's start there.
Yeah. Or air fry them instead of bake them, or don't steam them. Like steamed vegetables, in my opinion, are freaking disgusting. So apps like air fryer, that kind of thing. We had a question. What would you suggest for snacks when you have 16-hour days where 2 to 3 meals isn't enough? Great question.
Yes. And I like snacks actually. So I'm saying like 2 meals should look like FitMe plates, because I think that's a good place to start. But ultimately snacks fit in there too. So what I like to do is think about the FitMe plates. So sometimes we call them FitMe inspired plates. So you can't quite do that. Maybe your gas station's all you got, right? So then you're like, well, what could be inspired? Let me get some protein. Okay, got it. All right, let me get some. Is there any way I could get some veggies? Okay, got it. Is there any way that I could get some quality carbs? What's the maybe the least processed carb option I've got here? Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And then there's probably healthy fat built into that. And that's how I like you to think about snacks. Because if we snack on traditional snack food, it tends to make us feel more hungry, right? Like if you're like, let me snack on some Triscuits. Well, you're going to count out 7 or whatever it is. Cause I know, because that's from Weight Watchers, like that'd be a serving of Triscuits or something. So then you've just eaten carbs all by themselves and you're going to be hungry. So if we instead compare it, so instead, I'm not saying Triscuits are bad. Fine. You love Triscuits. Cool. That's your carb. But let's also add a hard-boiled egg or 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe some celery with like a single pack of nut butter, right? So now we've taken a snack that's not really going to satisfy us and give us energy. Instead, we've turned it into like a mini meal because it's sort of inspired. It's checking all those boxes. And so for Christy, I think what I would suggest to you is find some things that are fast and easy and put them together like that. So find something that feels like protein, something that's like carb. I think a piece of fruit is great, as a quick snack. It's already packaged for you, essentially. And single servings of nut butters can be great because you can pair some veggies with that. Those are like my go-to snacks. Jerky, little squeeze packs of things, and then just start to mix and match with what worked for you and pay attention to how you feel.
Yeah, love that. Love that, Christy. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, guys, it's as simple as implementing a couple of basic items. So the FitMe plate, I love the structure of that FitMe plate. Walking, right? I get in little things like on days that I don't go to the gym, I will intentionally park, and it's so cliche, but I park further away from the grocery store or further away from the store where I have to walk an extra 100 feet. Even an extra minute of walking can make a difference on how my body feels when I'm moving. And then number 3, freaking water, guys. Like this is not rocket science. It truly is that simple. And Natasha, to your point, it's absolutely true that perfect is not sustainable, because we all have this false belief that we have to be all in on health, all in on this diet, and all in on our eating, or it just doesn't work. And that's false. Like that's absolutely a false narrative. And it's not serving you believing that we have to be all in, when it's as simple as taking a couple of steps and doing them consistently day in and day out, and not beating yourself up or feeling guilty, letting that guilt seep into your psyche when you slip up once. One meal, one day isn't going to ruin you. It's when we continue to implement day after day, those couple of things.
And ultimately, you will face potential resistance.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we're saying, the things that I'm telling you sound really simple, and they are simple, but doesn't mean that they're easy. Like if everybody in your house is used to having fast food and all of a sudden you're like, hey, instead I put some chicken in the crock pot and we're going to go home and have like tacos, right? Like FitMe plate inspired. You can literally build out a taco bowl, and it's exactly what we're talking about. Put a bunch of vegetables on the bottom, put your protein, add your healthy fat, all that good stuff. But you might face resistance. Hold on, I'm going to fix my screen so it's not like blurry on my face.
Right.
But you might face resistance. And because you've accepted ownership, because you've decided that no matter what, you're going to make these changes, people will come along.
Yeah.
Or they won't. But at the end of the day, some of that is okay. People at work might be like, what? Why don't you want to go have margaritas for lunch? It's Friday, And you're like, it's not really my day. It's not a special day.
They're serving you, right? Like maybe there's foods that, are recommended in diets and they make me feel gross when I eat them, and paying attention to how something makes you feel as opposed to how something tastes is such a key to changing your mindset around that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Christy, we've covered so many things. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. Now, we had talked a little bit about you've got this really, really cool productivity journal that you showed me, and it is like it's awesome. Like it has so many tools and accountability tactics and schedule and mindset tricks in it. Is that something that you may be willing to share with some of the CEO community?
Yes, I would love to. So I have this for everyone who is here and who is watching the replay. I put together this productivity journal as sort of, again, not perfect, not all or nothing, but instead, how do we jumpstart when we feel overwhelmed? How do we start to make baby steps forward on prioritizing your health and fitness? And I put together this journal for this exact purpose, for people who are people pleasers, who are, overachievers, but maybe need a little extra help in this category. And so I'm going to put the link in the chat box for that. And if you go to that page, you'll be able to download it. It'll download right away, or it'll send to your email. And if you're like, I feel overwhelmed, just email me. I will respond. Or if you want, you can message me on Instagram. That's like a really good way to get up with me. And I would be happy to walk you through it to help you figure out what your first steps are, and help you kind of simplify. And yeah, I think that those would be great places to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Christy, thank you so much. And one thing that you said earlier that just resonates with exactly how I believe is that, we don't have a discipline problem. I've said that every single time, every single, webinar, because we go to work on time and we take care of our kids and we take care of our pets and we take care of our home and we pay our bills and we do all these things. So this isn't a lack of discipline that you haven't been prioritizing yourself. It's simply the fact that you haven't identified as somebody who can take ownership over your health and your body image. So it's time to re-identify as somebody who takes that ownership without the guilt, because you don't have to wait to feel good.
No, and you can feel good. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You are not shitty and terrible and, unworthy now. You are worthy today to feel good. And as soon as you feel that at least a little bit, build on that. Surround yourself with people who reinforce that message for you.
Absolutely. And Christy, she said it already, but you can connect with her on Instagram. She's super active on there and putting out tons of good content. So please go follow her on Instagram. Same with me. I'm on Instagram a lot. My content's not exactly as cool as Christy's, but I'm working on it. So feel free to connect with both of us on there. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. This was absolutely incredible. Christy, you are amazing. So everybody, yay. Have an awesome day, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, guys.